Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast, and I'm excited. We got Casey Adams here from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome, brother. Thank you for being here.
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Some crazy times that we're going through right now, right, with the coronavirus, the pandemic, kind of getting locked down.
Man. It's really escalated the last week or two,
Yeah, how's it impacted you so far?
It's interesting. So I think for me, and I'm here actually in my office, and my partner Kieran's over there, and
hey, what's up?
It's funny because we just did a big trip to Hawaii, Australia, and Bali and spoke at an event. And right before we went on this trip was when it was just, like, hey, should we go? Should we not? Is it sketchy? But we literally went at the perfect time. But in terms of obviously the day-to-day now, the last 2 weeks, like, haven't been traveling, been staying at the apartment, been staying at the office. And it's been really interesting because even just from a personal perspective, we have a Mastro's steakhouse like right next door, and Kieran went to go pick up food the other day, and it's, empty on a Friday night.
Yeah, right.
It's definitely how humans are reacting to it is the interesting thing. But yeah, it's definitely impacted me in terms of traveling and more so what the normal was, about a month ago.
Yeah, no doubt. And, we're all impacted, right? So we'll definitely be a time we'll remember forever. Well, let's talk a little bit, first question I like to ask is championship leadership's the name of the podcast. What comes to mind for you? Like, what does that mean to you when you hear championship leadership?
Championship leadership. I mean, for me, right off the bat, I think of sports. I played sports growing up, played hockey for 10 years, and I started playing lacrosse and football. And, growing up, a team always had great leadership if they were winning games, right?
Yeah.
The same way that is in business. I think someone that I really look at as a leader is Andy Frisella.
Yeah.
I was at the First Form headquarters a couple months back, and just seeing how he's, created leadership inside of his organization with his culture. I look at leadership as someone that, does what he tells you to do, right? He breathes and preaches everything that he wants his team to do. And for me, leadership is just leading yourself first, right? If you can't be a good leader unless you can lead yourself in the direction you want to go and accomplish the things you want to do. But I would say champion leadership just starts from within, and from leadership within creates leadership inside of the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, 100%. So wait, have you been in Phoenix your whole life?
No, I grew up in Virginia. I'm born and raised outside Richmond. I was there.
Going to say hockey.
Yeah, hockey in Arizona. But I played hockey for 10 years growing up, since I was from 3 years old to 13, 14. And I just moved out here to Phoenix back in 2018. So I've been out here for a little over a year and a half. But man, Virginia is just, it's definitely, grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
Wasn't surrounded by entrepreneurs or, people that were looking like, hey, traveling is normal, or hey, there's more to explore. It was more so just growing up in the mentality in the area where it's like, hey, you go to school, go to college, find your job. That's your life, right? But from Virginia, but now I'm in Arizona. It's definitely a place out here.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe you could tell us a little bit. I know, you mentioned athletics and when we're talking about championship leadership, and I know that's a big part of your story, getting injured when you were 15 playing football. Yep, and 15. How that kind of is really, how old?
15.
Yeah, 15. And how that really kind of changed the trajectory of your life and where you're at today. Maybe you could tell us a little bit, listeners that aren't as familiar with you, just a little bit of your background story and how you have gotten to where you are today.
Totally, man. So just regarding sports, man, I mean, sports was something growing up. It was my identity, my entire, day to day. I was focused on when's practice, when do I need to be there? It was a culture in my life. I have 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 3. And when I was, 3, 4 years old, my brothers were 6, 7, and 9 and 10, and they grew up around hockey, right? And it was more so just in our community. We had this hockey squad, I would like to call it. Yeah. And growing up, I think for me, sports was always something I loved being a part of, because it was just, you created relationships. You were all working towards the same end goal of winning the game, or, winning the championship in a tournament perspective. But, grew up playing travel hockey, did that a lot. And I think for me, just in my upbringing, having 2 parents that are together, and, I would say my parents are very loving, and they've always, wanted me to do what I want to do. And it led up to, like you said, getting injured at 15 years old playing football. So I played hockey for 10 years, and I transitioned to lacrosse. And then going into high school, tried out football. I was the 5'5" running back that, trying to juke around the big guys.
Yeah.
But it was a moment in my life when I was 15 that really changed the trajectory of how I was looking at my life. And I got injured playing football. I was in a neck brace for 6 months, got diagnosed with interspinous ligament damage. But it was one of those injuries that, obviously I wasn't expecting it, but it wasn't an instant reaction where, for example, I'll just kind of break it down. It was the first day of hitting practice, sophomore year. And I remember we go down to this field, and my helmet was on loose, and I could feel it was, but I didn't, I wasn't taking the right steps to make sure that was good to go.
Yeah.
Ended up doing this drill, and it was called a B drill, face to face, take someone down, and the winner, he's the guy that stands up and he's the bigger guy, right?
Yeah, pounds his chest, right? Yeah.
But it was a day where I ended up like falling on my back. The guy took me down. I hit my head on the ground, and I felt a severe pain in my neck. But like I said, it wasn't one of those things where I got rushed to the hospital and that was that.
Okay.
Something where I hit my head on the ground. I felt a massive pain. I couldn't practice the rest of the day. Go home that night. I'm telling my parents, like, hey, I'm in pain. Definitely want to get this checked out. The next morning I wake up and I can't even move my head. It's
wow.
Can't even turn it left. Can't even turn it right. I'm like, yeah, this is not good. End up going to the doctor, but me being this positive, optimistic young guy, I'm like, this will be 2 weeks out. I'll be good by the time the season starts. And I think this is the important lesson is not only to expect the unexpected, but I walked into this doctor's office that day, 15 years old, ready for the season, super amped up about life. To by the time I walk out, I'm in a neck brace for the next 6 months. I can never play football again. And I'm now like the most depressed kid that's just saying, that's not true. I'll be good. Because I'm not like in this severe pain to the point where I can't walk. It's more so just the neck brace that keeps me stable and, helps my neck rest. But long story short, it was that injury that really changed the next 6 months of my life, right? And it was real right at the end of freshman year, going through the summer practicing. So I had a couple months before school started in this neck brace. And those were the months where, I fell into depression and I was just pissed off about everything. I was letting anger out towards my parents, like why me, right? That victim mentality. Yeah. But it really allowed me to find more a new identity and tap into, different mentors. I started talking, like meeting online and connecting with different people on social media. But it was in that 6 month time frame that I really dove into personal development and personal growth that set me up for these last 3-4 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, well, here's a question, I guess. Next question, championship leader, like who are some of the championship leaders that have impacted your life and really maybe helped you to get to where you are? I think obviously we all have mentors and coaches and people that have really impacted us in a positive manner in life. And maybe sometimes you learn from those that weren't so positive in your life too, right? That's a possibility to take something that's kind of negative in your life and just be like, well, I definitely don't want to be that. So then you become something different. And then like, what is it about those, what are some of the characteristics about these people that really have helped you to get to where you're at? Like you got your podcast, you're interviewing guys like Larry King. It's just pretty cool. And it's all happened, you're young, you're 19 and it's happened quickly too. Right. So who are some of the people that maybe have come into your life and what is it about them that really has impacted you to help you to get on the trajectory that you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. And I think for me, it's constantly evolving and changing, right? But I think 4 years ago when I got injured, I couldn't say I had mentors in my life that I was actively following. I would say number one, right off the bat, like my parents are mentors to me in the sense of, my dad works hard every day. He's up at 5 a.m. He works at a company called Philip Morris, and just by, his work ethic shows. It's not from a business perspective, but just in a, daily grit, hard work mentality that's definitely rubbed off on me. But overall, from a business perspective, early on, I would say someone like Ty Lopez, he really shifted my whole perspective of how to think about life. I remember getting involved with one of his programs. He was talking about health, wealth, love, and happiness. And just by having someone like that I have never met before, that I didn't plan on meeting, but the sake of him running ads and me clicking on a link to then buy his program, he then turned into a mentor of mine just, through social media. And I think nowadays for a lot of young people, mentors don't need to be people that are in your life. They can be people online. They can be, books you're reading. And I would say one of the people in my life that shifted my whole mentality towards social media and building a personal brand was definitely Gary Vaynerchuk. And I remember reading his book, Crush It, him talking about personal branding. And from an early stage, 15, 16 years old, I was like, okay, I need to start documenting and creating content that will lead to new opportunities, that will connect me to new people using social media. And then he also inspired me to start a podcast. And I think him being someone that is, super relatable, cool guy on social, I definitely was attracted towards him early on in terms of a mentor. But nowadays, I think it really varies for different parts of my life. Like I would say Larry King is for sure a mentor in terms of his curiosity about the world. And, when I interviewed him, he was like, the only thing that keeps me going is my curiosity for what I do. And for me, the podcast, it started off something where, I'm interviewing friends of mine and people that I've connected with. So I didn't really have an end goal for it. To now, sitting down with someone like Larry King and now being passionate about having deep conversations with business leaders, it's changed into a new, I would say, a new purpose. And I think a mentor in that category would be someone like Larry King, and how he's continuously evolved and shifted with culture and broadcast mediums and everything in that realm. But overall, just to, answer the question directly, my dad from a hard work mentality, Gary Vee from a personal brand, social media mentality, Larry King from a podcast, conversation, curiosity mentality. And then also just, someone like Andy Frisell and Ed Milet, I like to bring them up a lot just because I think in a lot of the social media space, those two guys are the most, determined leaders that practice what they preach, and they rub people in a different way, and you can just tell they're real. And having the privilege to spend some time with the both of them, it definitely shows in their character in the real world as well. So I would say definitely those are mentors of mine in terms of how they live their life and what they stand for. They definitely, it sets good examples for myself. And I think I've taken a lot from those two guys for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. 100% agree. And so what is it for you? Like, you can look to yourself as you're becoming a leader, right? Leader in what you do, and you're out and you're speaking across the world and traveling all over the place, and you get to connect, like you said, and just like hear and share some powerful stories of people. That's what I like. I resonate with that. That's why I love this, like talking to you from Minnesota. I get to have a lot of incredible conversations, and it started, for me, it started like, it was just friends and people I knew. And all of a sudden you just kind of start to build from there. But what would you say to, like, I imagine, do you see it for yourself? Like, are there a lot of people kind of reaching out to you as like this mentor, this leader? How did you do this? There's probably a little bit of responsibility that comes with that too, of like, oh, what's going on here? Like, I was just doing this because I love to do it. And now all of a sudden I got people that are like, hey, how do you do this? And now you're that example that you were just talking about with some of these other people that, like, that's the thing that was ringing to me. Like, man, all of these people that you named, in one way or another, they were a great example for you and how to move forward. So maybe talk a little bit about that. Have you seen a little bit of that shift to where now you're kind of becoming that definite leader that people are looking up to as well?
Totally. And 100%. I think it happens organically. And I think everyone, not only someone like myself that, has a platform or, has an audience, I believe anyone who's listening to this, and whether that's someone that doesn't use social media, like, everyone is a leader in impact people around them without even trying, whether you have kids or if you're a brother or a sister. Like, the way you carry yourself will rub off on people, right? In a positive way or a negative way. And I think just regarding social media, it's been something where I always tell people this when it comes to building a brand. I built my brand off of authority marketing and association marketing, meaning I never tried to be the person saying, hey, listen to me, look at me. But through podcasting and finding that vehicle of collaboration and interviewing highly successful entrepreneurs and individuals and giving them a platform and, giving them a voice, and me just being, the narrator, interviewer, podcaster, it's allowed me just organically to become an authority in my own way without having to say, hey, listen to me because of this, right? It's just the organic transition of, okay, who you associate with, right? And I think, yes, I mean, the last 2 years, and I always tell people this as well. My goal is never to be the most famous person on social and have the most likes and followers. For me, it comes down to the people. Everything I do on social with the podcast is to connect with quality people. And through that, there's, of course, benefits in social currency and all those different things that happen from collaborations with people on social. But yeah, I mean, inspiring people my age and younger people and even older people, right? I've had parents message me and say that I've inspired them to,
That's awesome.
the way they talk to their kids, or, there's a mom that's been like, hey, I've had my daughter listen to 15 episodes of your podcast, and that she's, loves this whole, entrepreneur, like self-education space. And I think it's inspiring where, if I'm having a bad day or if things going, if I have something happen and then I go to my Instagram DMs and I find a positive message, it does light you up and fuel you. Not in a way where it's like, okay, this is paying off, but more so like the small little pieces of impact that you can pass on to someone is very important. And I think that as I continue to grow and as I can continue to do interviews, that will continue to grow with it. That's just the organic benefit. But I've never really expected nor tried to say, hey, okay, let me just get all these people to be inspired by me. It's more so just having the conversations, being curious, and that will create inspiration for others. And it's definitely, built an audience over time that I'm super grateful for. And I love, and my buddy Kieran would agree. He's one of my best friends. And over the years, he'll see me spending so much time on Instagram, messaging people or recording audio message or, just being of value, being of service. And sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, okay, how is this benefiting me? I can't spend 12 hours a day responding to people, but I do consider it an investment into my audience, into building community for the long term. And I think anyone that's looking to build a community, build a brand, it's those little touch points with that one person, or to have that 12-minute conversation with someone on Instagram, to send them a paragraph and to actually be, curious in what they're going through to try to help them. I think little things like that on a daily basis, compounded over time, is what creates culture and community. And, that's at the end of the day, that's why people put out content on Instagram. It's not, I don't interview Larry King to go watch it later. Right.
Yeah. Right.
I interview him because it's beneficial for me to connect with him and to learn from him. But the way and reason I put out content on social, it's not for me. It's not a self, let me look at all these pictures and videos. It's for others. And whether that's a 13-year-old kid that comes across my content that's inspired from me, or a 62-year-old mother who's, has a son or a daughter or a niece that's my age that can, they can send my interview with Larry King. My whole thing with my podcast nowadays too, and I think Larry helped see this is, I'm 19, he's 87. There's a 67 year age gap. And I think by having the opportunity to sit down with someone like him and have that opportunity, it creates this, connection between, if I show that interview to my grandparents or my mother or my 15-year-old cousin that relates to me, there's a lot of takeaways that can happen from a conversation like that. So now I look at it as more so an obligation to continue to have these conversations with, high quality people, because growing up, I didn't have, like I said, mentors, and I wasn't following entrepreneurs, and I wasn't exposed to this new way of thinking. And I think nowadays it is also an obligation and something that I'm passionate about doing, and, I'll continue to do it for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, it's incredible that you have been able to find this thing, and who knows how long you'll do it. Right. But right now it's like the thing that you're passionate about, and the incredible opportunities that you have to speak to some of these people, and kind of bridges the gap. What I thought of when you're talking about Larry King, you share it to your grandfather, they know who Larry King is, and they've been watching him forever. And now here, here their grandson, in your grandfather's case, is the one that's connecting with them. And how cool is that? Right. Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned a little bit, but vision. Championship leaders have great vision, like Bill Belichick, Nick Saban. I'm a football guy. So, the best of the best, the highest level, and they continue to find ways to show up and win year after year consistently. And there's some coaches that never even step foot on the field of the big game. They have this incredible vision that keeps them ahead of everyone else, and the courage to make those decisions to go after that vision, to chase it when no one else can see it. What's the vision or the impact that you want to make, you know, at least where you're at right now today with what you're doing with the podcast and in the connections you're making, the impact you're creating, the value you're giving? What is it?
It's interesting. I would say, and more so recently, because like, you know, the last 2-3 years, I've learned a lot of different lessons, met a lot of great people. But just in terms of podcasting, you know, I built a brand, and the last 3 years, having a podcast and having this platform has really opened up a lot of doors in my life to different opportunities. And I think more so now, and I can't talk about it too much yet, but just I'm looking to provide a quality product to this industry regarding podcasting. And I look at it like this, where throughout my journey the last 3 years, whether that's connecting with people or getting them on my show or, you know, getting booked on a different show like this one to do a podcast, I really am spending time figuring out how can I be of service and of value to this community that I'm deeply in, because year over year, the podcast industry is continuing to grow. The advertising revenue is doubling, if not going to be tripling year after year. We're about to hit $1 billion a year in advertising revenue in 2020. And I look at that as something where podcasting has been around for, you know, 15 years, but these last 2-3 years, it's really been gaining a lot of traction, especially in this space where more so the vision is to, yes, be a creator, yes, be a, you know, a content creator, like I just said, but to also build a business and a product around it that we'll definitely have to do a follow-up interview sometime so when I can give more details on that. But that's definitely that in terms of the vision, especially in this podcasting world. And I'm super excited about it. And moving into 2020, that's definitely where I'm spending a lot of my time.
Yeah, well, and speaking to that too, I can't wait to see what this is and what you're creating. But you will also, like, I think we really are kind of still, you know, they talk about it all the time, being the early adopter, right, of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, right, to catch that initial wave. And I think we really are there, right, still in podcasting. It's still kind of, it is picking up steam these last few years, but what you're doing there by capitalizing on this is becoming a leader in that space that people will look to for a very long time as well.
Absolutely.
What's a turning point for you? And you might have already talked about it. Maybe there's a different one that you could speak to, or whatever is present for you, but turning point, critical decision, critical moment, kind of that fork in the road where, you know, had you not made the decision you did, obviously you did because we're here today and you're on the path that you are, but had you made a different decision, you could very easily be in a different place right now in life. I think it's important for listeners to hear these because a lot of them, I think, are in this moment, especially right now with what's going on. And it's hard. It is. There's kind of the way you feel like you want to go, or your heart or your gut's telling you, but then you got everybody else being like, no, what are you doing? That's crazy. Don't do that. Is there a moment that sticks out to you that because you made the decision you are here, but you could have been very, very easily been somewhere different?
Yeah, I mean, I have two examples. One's more so something current that just happened, and then also something that happened early along my journey. And it's relating to travel, because traveling has been something that has opened up every door, you know, and I think it's something important where growing up, you know, I didn't fly on a plane until I booked the plane ticket myself. I didn't grow up traveling. Going to California was something both of my parents have never done in their lives. But when I was 16, there was this opportunity that came up where it was end of 2016. I've been, you know, trying to build this brand. I'm out of my neck brace after eight months. And I'm in this new momentum, self-education, just focused mentality going into sophomore, junior year. And I connected with this young kid named Caleb Maddox, who's now a really good friend of mine. And like I said, this was really the first person I connected with and had a relationship with on social. And, you know, I was doing some affiliate marketing at the time on Snapchat and on Instagram. And I had this article go out on my local news station about cashing in on social media and tapping into it. And I gave this kid, Caleb Maddox, a big shout out on the interview. Sent it to him. He checked it out. He was like, dude, this is sick, man. I've been following your stuff. You should come out to San Diego and speak at this event with me. You know, it's like a little 3-day event in San Diego. Come out. And this was an event that they were going to fly me out. It was just more so he was lending me a hand and saying, hey, if you want to come out, come speak for 15, 20 minutes on stage. And I looked at that, and I think this is the lesson overall is it was something so uncomfortable where I've never been to California. My parents have never been to California. I'm in high school. How am I going to convince my parents to let me go to San Diego, California to go speak at this event. When at
Yeah.
the time, they have no idea what I'm doing. They don't know what I'm getting myself into. I'm connecting with some dude on Instagram that is going to kidnap me, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was in that moment where it was like late 2016, like I said, and like we always did like day trips, snowboarding, where my parents were like, I asked them, I was like, hey, what does it take to go to San Diego? Can we do this? They're like, no. And at the time I'm making some money affiliate marketing. They're like, no, just like go spend that $1,000 on a snowboard, like be realistic. And that was more so like their mentality. So long story short, I was like, hey, Dad, I'll buy my plane ticket, your plane ticket, and cover the hotels for us. But you have to say yes, like right now, because we need to book these flights. It's in like a couple of weeks. So I end up convincing them to let me go to this event in San Diego. My dad and I fly out there. It's his first time like traveling on a plane in 20 plus years. He's never been to San Diego. I've never been to California, so this is like such an experience for me.
Yeah.
We go out there, and it's, we're out there for 2-3 days. We meet Caleb, we meet this guy Dan Fleshman and Gerard Adams, all these people that I was following on social media. But it was my first time of like experiencing a sense of like networking and at an event. And the reason I bring up this story is because have a great time at the event, go back to Virginia. The day I get home, I send a DM to this guy named Ty Lopez, which I'm sure a lot of people know who he is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, Ty. And I just sent him a message of appreciation. I was like, hey, Ty, 8 months ago, I was in a neck brace, depressed, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And now, I've tapped into social media, and I just spoke at this event with Caleb and Dan and listed out a couple people. Just wanted to say thanks so much. I was not expecting a response overall.
Right.
He gets back to me like 20, 30 minutes later, and it's like, hey, man, like, tell me more. This is super cool. I tell him like a short sense of my story, how I got injured playing football, got into his program. He's like, cool, man, you should come to LA and shoot a video with me. 2 weeks later, he's flying my mom and I out to Los Angeles. I skipped like 4 or 5 days of school. We spend a couple days in LA. First time in Los Angeles. It's my first time, having an experience like that. And they're back to back. And the reason I tell that story is because I think if I didn't make that decision to go to San Diego, to get out of my comfort zone, that opportunity with Ty would have not have been something that happened. And just to kind of bring it full circle too, when I was in Los Angeles, Ty, he did a live stream, and I'm saying, hey, my name's Casey, I'm 16 at the time. And just for cool reference, Kieran right here, who's, like I said, my best friend, he saw me on that live stream. He's from DC, Northern Virginia.
Okay.
And now we live together. We moved out from Virginia to Scottsdale together. And from that opportunity, so many decisions and opportunities have came from that. And I think that's something that I'll always tell that story, because I want people listening to think, what decisions are you not making or are you avoiding that could create opportunity? Because everyone, especially right now, right, where it's like the coronavirus and everything happening, obviously you can't just travel, and it's not something I recommend for people to do right now.
Right.
But no, it's like, what call are you not taking? Who are you not reaching out to? Who are you not following up with? Because those are the things you need to jump on and take action on if you want to see new opportunity. And now that's the first story. The second story is more recently regarding traveling. And I just look at this as something where it's like it tells a story where Kieran and I, our buddy Kevin Gordon, he was hosting this event in Bali, Indonesia in February. And we were leaving to San Diego on February 1st, Kieran and I. Then we went to Hawaii, Australia, and Bali to speak at this event. When we were in San Diego, about to go to Hawaii that morning, we were really debating not going. We're like, like coronavirus, it's bad in China right now. It's bad in, that side of the world.
Yeah, right.
It's probably best for us not to go in the grand scheme of things, but it wasn't bad in the U.S. yet. Things weren't at all what they are now.
Yep.
And this is, a little over a month ago.
Yeah, right.
But we ended up going. We had the most amazing time, amazing experience. And it was one of those, experiences where traveling from Hawaii to Australia to Bali, I've never done a trip like that. And it was such a rewarding experience. And I took so much out of it. I got to connect with Kevin Gordon. Kieran and I, we had this amazing experience. And then now we get back, and 2 weeks later, it's international borders are closed. And it's normal to be quarantined in your house for 2 weeks. And I look at this situation where it's like, wow, if we were to say no to that trip or delay it and, hey, we'll go to his event in Bali next year or in 6 months, just looking at the current landscape of the coronavirus and everything happening, like things will not be the same, right? And travel restrictions and, borders being closed, it's now not even a reality to travel to Bali, Indonesia right now on March 31st, 2020, right?
Yep.
It's something
Right.
where it's just, I wouldn't recommend it based on the current situations of the world.
Yeah.
And I tell that story because it's like, if we just went with our gut, we did it and it was a great experience. But if we were to delay it, our trip would have been affected, or it may not even have happened. And I
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up because it's something that recently happened where we're both like, wow, like we're so grateful that we decided to go, because now, that's really not a possibility based on the circumstances. And I think both of those stories relating to traveling, relating to, just taking action on something that you may be on the edge about, it may be uncomfortable, you just do it anyways. That's where I believe the most growth happens, is in that, that uncomfortable mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's phenomenal. It's like, the first story, right? Most 16-year-olds probably would have just went and got the snowboard and been like, yeah, you're right. But I mean, it really did, who's to say what would have happened after that, but it definitely opened some doors for you, like you said, that, might not have happened had you not listened to your gut and gone for that. And then, yeah, who knows what's going to happen in the future, right? That's the uncertainty of it all for all of us, is with what's going on. So it's awesome that you just went and took that trip, because, might not ever happen again. Right.
Totally.
So.
And I think too, just to like kind of draw like a point on that as well, as like, for example, I'm 19 right now. I didn't go to college, and it was a battle with my parents. I'm like, hey, you should go to college, and put what you're doing on pause, and pick it up in 4 years when you're out of college. Like, that was their mentality. And I think it really speaks to, especially right now with the current environment. Me and Kieran were talking about this last week, is we're so grateful for the opportunities that we've like acted on, and the momentum we have in our lives over the past 3 years of just, flying all over the country, going to different events, meeting different people, and just getting out there. Because now, with everything happening with coronavirus, and just not even coronavirus, but if we waited 2-3 years to, go travel, to go to events and just take it easy, or listen to society or our parents, or whatever it is, the opportunities in your life would have not came about the way they have today. And I think anyone listening, it's even this situation where it's like, you need to take action and on the opportunities that you can right now, right? Like, for example, this week, I'm doing a lot of Zoom podcasts because I'm not traveling and doing sit-down interviews with people in person. And now a lot of people, like yesterday I interviewed Jim Quick. He's like a brain expert. He's a beast. I've been following up with him for like almost 2 years to get him on the podcast. And he said yes this week because he's at his house.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's not on his book tour. So there's opportunities in uncertainty. And I think that's something where, especially in a time like this, figure out the ways you can tap into unique opportunities that may have not have been there when things were normal, right? So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, that's great. And, kind of leads into the last question, but I'll still ask it. Like, what is one thing that you could, I think what you just said is perfect. Like, hey, find the new opportunities that are arising. Like, business isn't as usual, but it just, what was available 30 days ago now has opened the door to something else that wasn't 30 days ago because of it. So maybe what's one thing that you could give to the listeners that, like, if they implemented today, it would help them move forward today?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's really just asking, like, in which area of your life do you want to move forward on, right? There's health, there's wealth, there's love, there's happiness. And I think for me, like, just giving you like a tangible example, the last 2 weeks, for example, I'm always trying to improve my health, which everyone should be. And I've been drinking a gallon of water a day, literally for the last 2 weeks.
I love it, man.
Crushing it. Yeah, 100%. But I think for me, it's like in this, like, I'm usually, and Kieran would attest to this, in January and February, I was in Scottsdale maybe 5 days in January and 5 days in February. I was just traveling a lot more than like I usually do. And I think with this time where it's like, Arizona's on like a state of emergency now. They're, saying, hey, stay in your houses or apartments for the next month.
Yeah.
During this time of like me being here and sticking to my routine, it's allowing me to say, okay, let me build in 250 push-ups a day and a gallon of water as just something I add into my schedule, because I have the time to do that. And I'm going to do that in my life. And I was having this conversation with my mom. She works at a school. Schools are canceled for the rest of the year. She goes back to school as a teacher in September. And I'm telling her, like, she has so much time now that she didn't have. Like, start listening to a podcast, start doing things that you haven't done. Because the truth is, everyone always says, when I have time, right? And I was
Right.
doing Instagram live with one of my mentors, Ryan Blair, yesterday, and that's what he was saying. He was like, there's no excuses right now in this time. Everyone has
Exactly. Yeah.
time, right? People are working from home. You can't go out. So it's like, what have you been pushing off? I would want everyone to ask themselves that question, right? Is it learning
Yeah.
an instrument? Is it watching a program online? Is it reading a book? Is it doing, 50 push-ups, 100 push-ups a day? Is it drinking a gallon of water a day? Like, what is it? Because we all have those, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll
Yep.
start that one day. And I would really try to identify what that is in your life and start working on it during this time, because now you have time in your favor, and chances are you weren't expecting this, abundance of time. So tap into it and really ask yourself, like I just said, like, what have you been pushing off? And once you identify that, write it down and look at it every single day, because if you have it written down, it will, number one, help you stay accountable. But it's something that I try to do every single day regarding just what is my intentions for the day. It's my intentions are to do 250 push-ups, to drink a gallon of water, to do this podcast and things that I've scheduled already. But yeah, just be intentional with the decisions you're making and the habits you're trying to create.
Yeah. Appreciate it. That's perfect. Anything else before we wrap it up here? Anything else you want to leave with the listeners before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just, overall, whoever is out there that's listening, that's going through something, one of the biggest takeaways that I've learned from all of my mentors is you just have to keep going in whatever you want to do. Like, I think a lot of people right now too, you see it, there's the unemployment rate. It's 3.3 million people file for unemployment.
Yeah.
Things are so uncertain right now. There's so much fear through the media. I would tell people, and also what I just try to do on a daily basis, is to spread gratitude and positivity on a daily basis, right? Whether that's, for example, yesterday I had this journal that I write, and it's like a 600-page ginormous journal. And I wrote down, like, I thought of like 10 people in my life that I was grateful for, and I wrote them a personal, handwritten note and texted them a picture of it. I would say in this time of uncertainty and in this time of fear, like, do one thing a day to spread love, to spread happiness and joy, and to just be grateful for people, because if you don't do that, you can let the fear may consume you, and it may put you into a stressed, anxious mentality if you let it. So that'd be my recommendation to anyone during this time, is just to take a moment to be grateful for what's happening now, but to also spend 10 minutes a day to call someone that you love, to text someone you're grateful for them, because I think that's what will balance out a lot of the fear and negativity is one person or listener today doing that and spreading the love and positivity. I think that's what I'd want to leave the people with.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. And I, speaking of being grateful, I would appreciate you coming on today. It's been awesome, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. And for everyone that may not know, I know we talked a lot about, podcasting today. If definitely taking the time to check out. I know we brought up Larry King a lot. I have a podcast called Rise of the Young. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. I spend a lot of time there interviewing cool entrepreneurs, CEOs, and it's something for me like we had today, it's great conversations. That's my intent with it. And if they can impact people from my interviews, that's definitely why I do a lot of what I do on social. So definitely check that out if you haven't already.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, man.
Have me on.
Have a good day.